christiangeekcentral.com. Do you like games? I like games too. I like games too.
Hey guys, Peter Franson here from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. I just finished watching Microsoft's E3 2017 press conference, and I don't think I'm the audience for Microsoft these days. I had a lot of hardware problems with the Xbox 360, as many gamers did, so they have a lot of trust they need to build back with me. But they announced the Xbox One X, the official name of the Xbox One, or the Project Scorpio or whatever, but this is their new model of Xbox, which plays all the new games coming out, but also the regular Xbox One and the Xbox One S all three of those systems will all play the same games, but the Xbox One X will just do them super duper well, and it's the most powerful console ever made, It's coming out November 7th with a price tag of $499. The Xbox One S at that time, I think, will be $249. They say that your current library of Xbox One games, and I think they were talking about Xbox 360 backwards compatible games too, will look and run better, even in 1080p if you don't have a 4K television, which I thought was really good news, because I'm not planning on upgrading to 4K for probably a few years at least. So knowing that there's still some benefits for someone like me was cool. That said, I'm not a graphics connoisseur, so it really doesn't mean much to me to be talking about how this looks amazing, it's the best looking, blah blah blah. It doesn't make that much difference to me. And also, all their talk about this being the most powerful console ever made, well, with the exception maybe of what Nintendo's been doing in the last few generations of their consoles, I kind of feel like every new video game console that comes out is the most powerful console ever made, at least for a little while, until the competition comes out with their next console. So, all of that was just kind of going in one ear and out the other for me. They talked a bit about their craftsmanship on this, and that being like a high priority to have really good craftsmanship, and I think that's probably a good idea for people like me that are still remembering the burn of the issues with the Xbox 360. But they talked a lot of technobabble that ultimately, for me, I don't know, I don't understand, so I just need to see how long this is going to last for users, how faithfully it's going to withstand hours and hours and hours of play without breaking down. Or it talks about having this liquid cooling system, and I have no idea what that is, but when you talk about liquid being inside of an electronic device made by Microsoft, that makes me nervous. Let's see, what else? Last year, they really had trouble getting their exclusive games to release, like games that actually were only going to be playable as far as console play goes on the Xbox One. They had several cancellations and stuff, so this was the year I was really curious to see what they were going to do in that regard. At the top of the show, Phil Spencer said that there were 22 games that they were going to be showing during the press conference that were console exclusives, but as I watched the conference and decoded some of the marketing speak, it became clear to me that most were only console launch exclusives, which I think indicates that they, when they launch, will launch first and for a little while only be at launch available on the Xbox One as far as console play goes, but will eventually be available on other consoles. So that really doesn't say a whole lot to me. It doesn't give me a really strong, persuasive reason. I have plenty of games to play. I can wait a little while longer, however long it takes, a year or two even, for those same games to come out on the PlayStation 4. The real exclusives that they had were far fewer in number than 22, and I think if I'm counting them correctly, they include Forza 7 Motorsport, which is a car racing game, State of Decay 2, which is a post-apocalyptic zombie survival, town building kind of, community building kind of game, Sea of Thieves, which is an online multiplayer pirate game, Super Lucky's Tale, which is almost like a Super Mario Galaxy clone featuring a little fox jumping around, Cuphead, which is a 1930s animation-style side-scrolling platformer, Crackdown 3, which featured Terry Crews, which I think is some maybe athletic football kind of guy that maybe people that are into sports will be excited to see in the little promo that they had for it, but it didn't do anything for me. And then Ori and the Will of the Wisps, which is a sequel to Ori and the Blind Forest. That one actually has no release date even. So I felt like the exclusives they had really didn't say much to me. The only one that really stands out of those would be State of Decay 2, but I have yet to play State of Decay 1, which I can play on 360, haven't gotten around to yet. yet, so I'm not feeling a real strong pull with their lineup of exclusives to go out and buy an Xbox One. I feel like also I am not the target demographic for Xbox these days. If I were to try and figure out what that demographic is, and I don't want to put anybody in a box, and I don't want this to sound insulting, so I recognize that I might not be choosing the best words here, but give me some grace and bear with me as I try to explore this. I think that their target demographic is something like what I might call a jock gamer, as opposed to like a nerd gamer. Whereas nerd gamers are going to be more into nerdy type things, like really hardcore into fantasy, really hardcore into sci-fi. They're more likely to be into RPG role-playing games or strategy games, these kind of thinky types of experiences, whereas like what I would call the jock gamer is going to be more into sports games, they're going to be more into multiplayer, they're going to be more into competition, and they're going to prefer action games over like slower, more deliberate games. And they're not going to really necessarily be into strategy / tactics or heavy story oriented games. So I don't want to label anybody and say that anyone is just a jock gamer, but I'm just talking about this kind of like prototypical type of person. I think that's kind of where they lean more, and I just tend to be not into sports games or multiplayer games or competition, and I'm very hesitant about playing action games, unless I feel like I'll be able to handle them, because I just suck at hand-eye coordination type stuff. So, and then also, they the use of Terry Crews, which is some athlete guy. They also for Forza bring out a new car, and they even just talk about the car for a little while. I'm like, what? Why are you talking about this car? Talk about video games, please. It was short, but it was still like, why are you wasting any time on this? So, it just seems like they were speaking to an audience that I am not, part of that core audience for them. So let's see here. So, personal game highlights include Metro Exodus. I've been enjoying the up-resed Metro games, at least the first one of the two that have been released so far on the PS4. They are a little bit like intense for me because you're like fighting monsters and going through corridors that are creepy and stuff like that. So I'm not always in the mood for it because it's a little bit intense, but I have been enjoying it, and so seeing this trailer and it looks kind of cool. It looks like it might be going a little bit open world or maybe fully open world. And with as much as I'm enjoying the Metro game so far, I'm like, okay, great. This gives me all the more reason to finish my playthrough of the Metro games so that I can be ready for Metro Exodus when it comes out in 2018. Sometime in 2018 is when that is said to be coming. Then another game that caught my interest, Assassin's Creed Origins. After seeing the movie, which I thought was, that's not a bad movie, but the world in the movie was really what caught my attention, made me want to try the games for the first time. And so I am now just starting Assassin's Creed Revelations, the third game in the series. I've really been enjoying the gameplay and the story and the liberties they take with history and the Bible and all kinds of. They do some really weird stuff. There's some major logical inconsistencies going on there that are just kind of interesting to kind of chew on and explore. And then I really, really enjoy the gameplay. So I'm an Assassin's Creed fan now, and so I'm definitely looking forward to this one. They seem to be borrowing some elements from Far Cry Primal. You're going to have like this eagle that you can have soar above you, and you can see through his eyes to kind of spot enemies and tag them, before you go into an enemy area. The developer talking about the game said they're adding many RPG elements, which I'm like, great. It looks like, from the gameplay we saw, it's going to have some leveling up stuff and some ability points that reminds me a lot of what I've been seeing in the Far Cry games recently. Like, I'm thinking of specifically 4 and Far Cry Primal. So yeah, I'm very interested to see where they're going to go. That's probably going to be an insta-buy for me. I'm interested to see also in this game who the big bad is, because so far in my experience of the few that I've played so far, it's the Catholic Church. They're doing a cover-up, or they're corrupt, or whatever, or it's some, Christianity in some form, is a lie and all that kind of stuff, and so it's some form of Christianity that, and I should specifically say the institution surrounding Christianity. But I mean, the Assassin's Creed series also basically puts forth the idea that a bunch of it is a lie. All the stuff that we know about Jesus is like largely false and stuff like that. So I'm interested, like, who's going to be their big bad that they are trying to liberate the world from when they go all the way back to ancient Egypt? So, I mean, are they actually going to, in some way make Yahweh their enemy? Which would be Oof, interesting. So we'll see what happens there. I'm very curious about that, but I'm mostly just interested in more of that Assassin's Creed style of gameplay. Really been enjoying all the mechanisms that those games have. Another game that caught my attention, this one I probably will not play, just doesn't seem like my kind of thing, is the Darwin Project. They brought on, like, when they were showing gameplay, a shoutcaster, who's kind of like talking, yeah, she's doing this attack, and da-da-da-da, now he's being attacked, oh, he's out, and like, I was like, okay, so they're trying to, I think, show us that this is going to be an esports game. That's kind of their intention here. It seemed to be some kind of like a large environmental arena, last man standing online type of action game. Definitely not my thing, but I think it's a fitting title if the game is really just about kind of coldly killing each other to rise to the top. I mean, that is the natural morality system that logically grows out of a pure naturalistic evolution. So the title and the theming of that one caught my attention. The last game to catch my attention, another one I will not be playing, will be Anthem. This is from BioWare. It's the one that was teased in EA's conference, and we finally saw gameplay this time. This one's coming out in 2018, but who knows when, so it may not even be until after next year's E3 that it actually comes out. It is an online sci-fi multiplayer first-person shooter. All right, well, goodbye, BioWare. In your early days, you gave me many great gaming experiences, but clearly you are now officially going off in a direction that is just not going to interest me at all. So hopefully many other players will enjoy these experiences that you're creating these days, because I can't see how I will. All right, so let's see here. One thing, just as an overall note about the games that they talked about, there were a number of games shown that had no release window. I felt like Microsoft was struggling to kind of to give us reasons from a video game software standpoint to buy an Xbox One. They were showing a bunch of games, but a lot of them were not exclusive to the Xbox One. That either at release they would be available elsewhere, or just maybe wait a little while and they'll be available elsewhere. There was just like a little more than a handful maybe of games that were just really going to be exclusive to the Xbox One. And then a significant number of the games that they showed teasers or trailers for didn't even have any kind of year or release window or anything. And I'm just like, why are you wasting my time? You're just going to show us this again at next year's E3. So I'm not confident in where they're sitting as far as their exclusive games and their software enticements. Is that the right word? I don't know. I'm trying to do a little less editing so I can get this video up a little bit sooner, so sorry about that. Okay, so the most exciting moment for me in this press conference, even though largely I admit, uninterested, because a lot of what they were talking about and hyping up just wasn't my kind of gaming experience. But the most exciting moment was when they talked about backwards compatibility. There are, I think they said, 385 Xbox 360 titles that are now backwards compatible and playable on the Xbox One. And they made the announcement that backwards compatibility for original Xbox games is coming. There's going to be more info later on this year. I'm super curious about this. It was met with a cheer from the audience. I'm wondering, is this going to be disc-based? I would love to. I've still got my copy of Knights of the Old Republic. Would I, well, I don't have an Xbox One, so I guess that's not really going to help me. But I mean, anyway, I more than anything, I'm excited that this could say something to Sony. It probably won't. But I would love it if this would kind of stir up Sony's competition, and they would just say, yeah, okay, we can do the backwards compatibility thing, because I want disc-based backwards compatibility for PS2 games on my PS4. I don't think that's going to happen, but this was one more little ray of hope that maybe they'll give us give Sony some competition that will kind of lead them to want to do that. So anyway, if I look at my checklist for, if I check my wish list for this conference, I did not get a more full embrace of PC crossover from PC to Xbox One back and forth. I wildly dreamed that they might somehow bridge the gap between console and PCs in a way that was more rich and deep and than just kind of like having a game that you buy on one playable instantly on the other, So I didn't get more of that kind of crossover stuff going on. That's fine. What I did get was competition that I think can potentially make Sony better, and that's specifically regarding the Xbox original backwards compatibility. I got a heavy game focus with some titles that are releasing soon, even though there are hardly any, certainly no exclusives, and not very many other titles that are really interesting to me. It was still a heavy game focus with a good amount of titles that are releasing soon. That was really nice. And then I also asked specifically for backwards compatibility, so that kind of like I'm double dipping that one a little bit, but it was neat. I definitely got some things on my wish list. So at the end of the day, I'm nowhere closer at all to becoming an Xbox owner again, but they did some things that I'm happy about. So yeah, at the end of the day, what more can I ask for, really? Stay tuned for my reactions to the Bethesda conference next, and other conferences and announcements as the week continues. Mark your calendar for my next video game live stream, where I'll burn through my backlog to try and satisfy some of the excitement that I might be feeling after all the announcement of all these new games. So that's just going to be about me playing games and hanging out with you guys. That's going to be Friday, June 23rd from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. Pacific. And in the meantime, I'd love it if you came over and hung out with us at christiangeekcentral.com as we continue to geek out and seek the truth.